70 Trinidad and Tobago nationals who were stranded in Suriname due to the closing of the borders returned home this morning. The nationals who were working in Suriname, most on a special project by the government of Suriname, were unable to secure a flight back to Trinidad before the borders were closed as part of the COVID-19 measures. Stacy-Ann Providence has the story.
The 68 men and 2 women were taken to the Penal Debe campus of the University of the West Indies from Piarco on Friday morning. They will be in quarantine at the campus for 14 days. Most of the group had spent 6 weeks working on a project with the government of Suriname and were due to return around the time the borders were closed.
Unfortunately, the flight that they had booked to come back to Trinidad, the crew who were going to man that flight were unable to be put together in time. And when a second flight was arranged, it was outside of the time period and the borders in Trinidad were already shut. And therefore, that is what necessitated them remaining in Suriname for the period of time that they were there.
Attorney GERALD RAMDEEN, who, along with Umesh Maraj, petitioned for the exemption on behalf of the 70 nationals, said they were all happy to be on home soil once again. Mr. RAMDEEN said the process, which spanned 3 weeks, was very frustrating for the nationals, especially in the last 2 weeks.
Because they were in a process back and forth, not knowing exactly what was happening. Some days they experienced despair, some days they had hope, depending on what was said to them.
He commended the local companies for going the extra mile to ensure the group was well looked after in Suriname. And while he said it's water under the bridge now, he believes the nationals could have come home sooner.
Actually, when we sought permission from the Ministry of National Security, one of the requirements that we were told that they should meet is that they should be tested. That threshold was then lowered when they said they should be medically examined. Neither of those conditions were met, and they were allowed back into the country. And therefore, the obvious question that would have to be asked is, why is it that it took 3 weeks of back and forth between lawyers and the Ministry of National Security to be able to reach to a point that we could have reached 3 weeks ago, when our nationals could have come back home? They could have been quarantined, and they could have been back home with their loved ones.
The attorney said there is a lesson to be learned from this experience.
So I hope that these 2 situations will provide a template for the government to be able, in a more efficient manner, to deal with the other nationals that may be requesting to come back home to be with their families and loved ones.
Stacy-Ann Providence, TTT News.